Ready for a deep dive into something a little different today? We're tackling vainglory. Sounds kind of like something you'd find in a dusty old history book,
It
right?
does have a bit of a medieval ring to it, doesn't it? Like something knights would be concerned about.
Exactly. Like, when's the last time any of us had to worry about winning a jousting tournament, right?
Right.
But this text we're looking at, vainglory, a subtle trap for Christians to overcome, it's saying this whole vainglory thing, it's surprisingly relevant to us even today.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it might not be as obvious as a jousting tournament, but it's definitely something we can all relate to in different ways.
So true. So, okay, let's break it down. What exactly is vainglory?
Well, think of it like this. It's that deep down desire we all have for recognition. You know, that longing for people to think we're, well, pretty amazing.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Like, we all want to be appreciated, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's nothing inherently wrong with wanting to do good work and be recognized for it. But the text draws a really interesting connection here to pride. It even uses a passage from Philippians 2.3, which warns against selfish ambition and conceit.
So it's not just about being proud of a job well done, but about the why behind it. Like, what's really driving us?
Exactly. And that's a really key distinction the text wants us to grapple with. Are we more concerned with outward praise from others, or are we striving to do what's right in God's eyes?
That's a great question. So, like, let's say you totally nailed a big presentation at work.
Okay.
And instead of just feeling grateful for your skills, for the opportunity to use them, you're caught up in how impressed everyone must be with you. That kind of vibe.
You've got it. And that's where the text suggests this constant need for validation. It actually pushes away from something Jesus taught as being super important, especially for Christians.
Humility, right?
Exactly. Humility.
That's a big one. So, in the context of this whole vainglory trap, how does the text define humility? Because it's not about, like, putting yourself down, right?
No, not at all.
Right.
It's not about denying your accomplishments or anything like that. It's about seeing yourself accurately, but through God's eyes.
Wow. That's powerful. But what does that actually look like? Practically speaking, I mean.
Yeah, it's a great question. Imagine looking in a mirror, but instead of seeing your own reflection staring back, you see yourself as God sees you, without all the distortions of pride or insecurity.
Okay, that's a really cool image. And I'm guessing that's where true strength comes from then, right? Not needing all that outside validation.
Yeah, and it's in that seeing ourselves as God sees us, that's where the true strength comes from.
So we don't have to try so hard to prove ourselves, you know?
Exactly. The text even quotes 1 Peter 5.5, where it says, God opposes the proud but shows favor to the humble. And it's not about putting ourselves down, but realizing that real strength comes from aligning ourselves with God's will instead of letting our egos run the show.
Okay, so it's less about chasing after fleeting praise and more about finding that solid ground within ourselves. But how do you actually live that out? Like, what does it actually look like to, I don't know, do humility in everyday life?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the text reminds us that humility isn't about, like, forcing ourselves to be self-deprecating or something. It's more about recognizing where our true value comes from.
So where does it come from?
Well, there's this great verse in Colossians 3.23, and it talks about how we should approach our work, everything we do, as if we're doing it for the Lord, not for people.
Oh, interesting. So it's like shifting that focus from like, look what I did, to look what God can do through me.
Exactly. It's realizing we're all part of something so much bigger than ourselves. The text even uses this metaphor of building a house. It asks if we're building our lives on the shaky foundation of human praise or on something much more solid, like the rock of God's love.
I mean, don't get me wrong, that feeling of being recognized for something, it does feel good in the moment, right? But it's so fleeting.
It is, isn't it?
It's like you need that constant stream of compliments to keep that good feeling going.
And that's exactly the point the text is making. It actually calls out this type of behavior by using the example of the Pharisees from the Gospel of John. It talks about how they loved human praise more than praise from God.
Yeah, I remember reading about that.
They were so busy chasing after approval from other people that they completely missed out on the true source of worth and acceptance.
It's like they were always chasing after something that could never truly satisfy them, you know?
Exactly. And that there's a beautiful verse in Psalm 62.7, and it reminds us about where our true security and honor come from. It says, "My salvation and my honor depend on God. He is my mighty rock, my refuge."
And that's so powerful because it's recognizing that our worth, it's inherent. It's a gift from God. It's not something we have to earn, you know? But I feel like that can be tough to remember, especially with all the messages we're constantly bombarded with, telling us we need to do more, be more, achieve more. How do we even start to deal with that tension? It's true, though. It's like we're constantly being told to build our own platform,
Yeah.
shout our accomplishments from the rooftops.
It is. It's really easy to get caught up in that.
So easy.
And I think that's where this text offers a really powerful perspective shift.
Okay.
Instead of asking ourselves, what do I have to do to get noticed, to feel important, it challenges us to ask, what can I boast in that truly matters?
So we're not talking about bragging about like a promotion or a viral video or something.
Right. It's much deeper than that.
Okay.
The text points to a verse in Galatians 6.14 that says, may I never boast except in the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ. And I think it's such a powerful statement because it really clarifies where our true source of pride should lie.
Wow. So it's like a complete flip, right? Our boasting shouldn't be about us at all.
Exactly. It's about understanding that true significance, true worth, it comes from our relationship with God through Christ's sacrifice. And when we grasp that, when we truly get that need to chase after fleeting praise, it just starts to fade away.
It's not about erasing ambition or anything, right? Like, it's okay to want to achieve things.
Absolutely. It's about aligning those desires, those ambitions, with something so much bigger than ourselves.
So we can still chase our goals, but it's about the why behind it, right?
Exactly. It's about living from a place of security, of purpose, knowing that our worth isn't based on what we achieve, but on something eternal, something unchanging. And that's God's love for us.
That's a pretty freeing thought. We don't have to hustle for our worth because it's already been given to us.
And the text ends on this incredibly powerful note, and it's this. It challenges us to stop seeking validation from the world and instead step into the freedom that comes from knowing we are fully known and completely loved by God. Just let that sink in for a moment.
Wow. Yeah. So as you go about your week, think about this. Where are you looking for validation? What would it look like to find your worth, your purpose, not in fleeting praise, but in something truly lasting? Until next time, keep diving deep, friends.